Hey there, welcome to Cracking the Rich Code, the podcast. I'm your host, John Verico. My guest today is somebody very special. And I know I say very special all the time, but it's true. Each and every one of the guests has been so amazingly special in and of their own selves. But today's guest, Trisha Fuller, is a hypnotist. And it's something that I want to learn more about myself because, we all have maybe misconceptions about what hypnosis is all about. And let's find out from Trisha, who has written her chapter in Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 16. Let's bring her in and have a chat. Hello, Trisha. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you, John, for having me on. I'm excellent. How are you?
Oh, if we're any better, I'd have to be twins to enjoy it.
Oh, well, there you go.
How's that?
That is fantastic.
So,
You've left me speechless. That doesn't happen very often.
excellent. My mission is accomplished.
There we go.
So anyway, hey, I wanted to find out more about you when I was reading your bio and found out that you are not only a hypnotist yourself, but also a hypnosis trainer. I said, okay, this is somebody who really gets it and really understands this stuff. And, I think those of us who have not experienced hypnosis have misconceptions about it or just don't know about it, other than the entertainment thing that you see, or you hear about how people have used hypnosis for to overcome bad habits like smoking and eating disorders and things like that. But I know there's a whole lot more to that. And so let's just chat just a little bit about kind of what it really is and how you came into this field.
Oh, okay. It baffles me sometimes how I landed here because I failed at hypnosis more than I succeeded before I actually committed. And, I think that helps answer the question, what is hypnosis? All hypnosis is self-hypnosis, and you cannot be made to do anything that you don't want to do. So when I wasn't ready, when I was looking for a magic wand, when, I thought there was blacking out involved, I did not succeed. And, to explain what hypnosis feels like, all you have to do is close your eyes and then open your eyes and go, oh, that's a lot like what hypnosis feels like. Hypnosis is a brainwave state, and it's associated with theta brainwave. And it is an intense focused state. So it's the ability to focus on one thing to the exclusion of everything else. They really wish they would have called it monoideism. And that's just a fancy word for singular thought. So,
Oh, I love that.
yeah. So if you think of John, have you driven somewhere, got there and not remembered the last 5 minutes of the drive?
Unfortunately, yes. And it's kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Like, how did I drive here?
Yeah, right. And you didn't black out. You were just hyper focused and everything else kind of fell away. That is highway hypnosis. It is a state of hypnosis. You're conscious, you're alert, you're aware, you're functioning. It's just a very single-minded event. Okay. So yes, we don't recommend being in highway hypnosis, but it does happen. Another example of hypnosis would be have you ever cried in a movie? Yeah. The movie's not real.
I admit it.
But your mind is focused on it and it believes that it's happening. So the more senses in the body that can be harnessed at the same time. So visual, auditory, kinesthetic, those are sight, sound, and feelings. Ideally, we're harnessing those, which are the structure of genius that helps us believe that something has already happened. And when you can utilize that, your brain doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. It doesn't know the difference. And so if you believe something is already true, then it becomes a resource state. And that resource state is now usable to, reduce stress and, increase focus and increase confidence and achieve a specific goal, right?
Wow.
So what I mean by that is that we want to be able to create something in the nervous system to make our minds utilize the next stage of reverse engineering. So beginning with the end in mind. So people come in, they have an outcome, and we reverse engineer backwards and allow the mind to believe that something is true. Does that make sense?
I got it. Yeah, that seems to make sense. So that's how we can get people to kind of change their um, addictive behaviors or certain mindsets that they have.
Yeah, they're creating a new strategy or a resource state where those things don't exist. So, right now, a person might not believe that they could, reduce their weight by 50 pounds, or that they could be, calm and in control of their world, or eliminate a habit that it no longer serves a purpose, right? So they don't know what they don't know. Like, they haven't lived with it for so long. And, they need to create a new state of mind that allows them to believe that this is their reality, and it becomes true to their reality because of the practice state that, like, especially with the Master Hypnotist Society, we make sure that they're doing daily practice. This isn't a one-hit wonder. You can't lift weights once and get a beautiful muscle. You want to keep on lifting, right?
I keep trying to hope that happens. It's like I went to the gym like 8 years ago. Come on, man.
Come on. Yeah. So the thing is anything where, you had to practice to learn to tie your shoes, and then it became automatic. And you had to practice driving, and then it became automatic, and walking. And, the list goes on and on. And anything worth doing requires, a little bit of practice, And so in daily life, we do it something in a way called what I call perfect practice. Every day is like practice makes perfect. And then in hypnosis, we do the version perfect practice. So you're practicing it exactly how you want it to go. And then in daily life, we create that muscle memory through the repetition.
Wow.
So hypnosis essentially is relaxation, repetition, and fixation.
Okay. Wow. So now you've been doing this how long now? Just out of curiosity?
14 years.
I was going to say, because you look very young.
Well, I must have a good camera on. Yes. So to answer your earlier question, and I think that's where you're going with this, is how did I get into this, right? So the final thing that really made it click for me, that my we'll call it my fourth attempt, was hypnotic childbirth. I had had 2 cesareans, and I kind of felt like defeated and broken, and like, why me, poor me. And I found an amazing program that harnessed hypnotic childbirth as well as like complete prenatal education. And I actually achieved natural childbirth. And for anybody who knows the medical system, it's kind of unheard of to, achieve a natural birth after 2 cesareans. So it kind of blew my mind, and I quit smoking, so it was pretty cool. So yeah, I had started in my 20s, trying to quit smoking, and it was a crazy bad experience, and I wasn't thrilled, and I was like promptly lit a smoke after, and then but it was how it was done. It was just there's a lot of misconceptions that people think that there's blacking out and stuff, and if a person isn't taught this in what I call a free screening to see if they're a good candidate,
Right.
then they're going in with the wrong idea.
Yeah.
And, I had,
I'm afraid you're going to make me cluck like a chicken.
yeah. And, like I'll
Because
always say,
that's we see the entertainment side of things.
yeah. And I'll say to people, I'm like, well, do you want to cluck like a chicken? Because I'll work on it, but you have to,
I love that sense of humor.
it's possible. Yes. Is it real? Like what you see? Yes, absolutely. But hypnotic depth and hypnotic achievement is directly dependent on need. So if a person doesn't wanna, they're not gonna. So if you don't want to cluck like a chicken, you're not going to cluck like a chicken, and that's not the purpose of what you came in for. So
Right.
let's move forward to what you would like.
And let's face it. If you were too embarrassed to cluck like a chicken, and you had no intention to ever cluck like a chicken, you probably wouldn't have raised your hand to volunteer to go up on the stage with the hypnotist anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. So if anybody's going to dive into the hypnosis, exploratory, make sure that you actually get somebody who is going to take the time to do, like a free consultation or a free assessment to make sure you're actually a good candidate.
Yeah.
Like, don't waste your time and your money if somebody hasn't like taken the time to explain it to you and actually test whether you're a good hypnotic candidate before you go forward. And that's like my main takeaway. Just like make sure that you're just not paying for one session and like one and done and not getting any explanation, because that's why people will leave and they'll go, I don't think I was hypnotized, and they have no proof. So, a good hypnotist will make sure that they know that they were hypnotized. They will also make sure that it's a program that has like at least a beginning and a middle and an end, so that a person actually knows that they accomplished something. And the hypnotist has the opportunity to make sure the person gets their goal.
Right.
Like, that's the most important part, you getting your
Yeah.
goal, So yeah, that's
So
that's
so you came at this obviously from somebody who was seeking assistance from hypnosis, ultimately found it, and then you became so enthralled with it that you learned how to do it, and
left my
look where
job.
you are now.
Yeah. Yeah, I left the medical field after succeeding. I was like, I just, this is amazing. If I can do this, everybody can do so many more things. And yeah, and then I became a trainer, and then I took NLP and became a trainer in that, and then joined a fabulous team with the Master Hypnotist Society, and it's been amazing. Yeah.
What an amazing journey. Now you said you left the medical field. What were you doing prior?
I was a lab and X-ray technician. So yeah, I had everybody thought I was crazy to do this, especially because I lived in a really small town. And, to start a hypnosis business, there just everybody's like, oh my God, what is she doing? She must be a little bit cracked. And yes, I must be. So I'm in the cracking the rich code, so I must be cracked.
So there you absolutely, absolutely. So tell us about what you had written about in Cracking the Rich Code. I know the title is Lindsay's Story, a true story, a last resort. I want to know what this all means.
Yeah, Lindsay probably is my most favorite story of success. Well, obviously, I wrote about it. So, like, she's just so near and dear to my heart. So she came in and she thought hypnosis was, again, a lot like me, like just, oh my God, like I can't even believe I'm trying this, but I'm so desperate to try to change something. And she had an experience, which I'll leave you, people have to read to find out. She had an experience that was very traumatic, and essentially she, like me, she felt very broken, and she didn't know where to turn. The solution isn't just to be over medicated and pushed down, and she needed something that was actually going to help her regain control in her life. And she did. So she did a stress release program where she began to gain that confidence um, back, to believe that it was safe to leave her home, and safe to like take part in activities and these things. And then she took, no, her husband took hypnosis training first. He's like, wow, she's done really cool things with this, I'm going to go take a course. And then he came home from the course and he's like, she's like, well, that's kind of cool too, maybe I want to take that course. And then she took the course, and fast forward a few years, they actually bought one of my locations. And
Wow.
yeah, and now she runs a thriving hypnosis clinic, and she's paying it forward. She's helping people gain their life back, and it's just so beautiful to see such a huge transformation in her.
That is amazing. And what I'm seeing here is, as you were telling the story, your face just lit up, right? And I think those
I'm just so proud of what she's accomplished.
I think those of us who are in the realm of being coaches and mentors and things like that, and speakers, even as speakers, we thrive on the success of the people we're working with, right? And we
Yeah,
become like, oh, we take ownership of that. Like, oh, look at what I helped that person do. And
yeah,
sometimes we don't even realize that, right? Sometimes it's just like, well, look at what they were able to succeed. And then when they think about it later on, it's like, oh, I kind of helped make that happen. And then yeah, it's like, oh, that's the best feeling. That's the best
yeah.
feeling. Yeah. I would do this stuff for free, but I've become accustomed to those minor luxuries of food and shelter, so I do have to charge. But
Well, the
I
truth
mean,
is nobody changes for free. They have to have skin in the game.
There you
In
go.
in some way, shape, or form, most people will do better if they have an investment in it. Now, making it work for their time and their budget, absolutely. But the
Yeah.
thing is, we have to have, like, think of when you tell somebody something is like free, they're like, well, how much value does it really have? You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Right.
so absolutely, I agree with what you're saying. And sometimes the catalyst can be that we're speaking, or that we are a mentor, or whatever, right? And it doesn't have the direct correlation, but it inspires them to create that change somewhere else. And that's the goal, right? Is hopefully we can um, spark that interest in them to be able to ignite their life in a way that they can begin to design it in a way that's useful for them.
I love it. I love it. We're speaking with Trisha Fuller, who is a hypnotist and a hypnosis trainer, and who wrote a chapter in Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 16. You definitely want to pick up a copy of that. But I want to ask about another aspect that I learned briefly about you. I just happened to notice it on your bio, is that you're a TEDx speaker.
Yes. That was I considering I usually don't memorize speeches. That was a challenge. It was a fun challenge. To write it out and have it all submitted, and then memorize it. But I usually speak to what inspires the group, and it
Mhm.
usually flows in more of a story. So that structure was a fun challenge.
What was the topic? Obviously, I'm kind of getting a hint of what it might have been, but tell us
I,
about that
yeah,
experience.
I basically just taught essentially what a hypnosis program would look like, and like what hypnosis is, and just gave some quick resources about understanding, like, even how like Olympic athletes would use it. And we're no different. Everything that we're doing in life is the same as what Olympic athlete would want to do, and creating that resource state in the mind, just debunking some of the myths in hypnosis and those kind of things. So just general information, with making the crowd stand up and do a few little fun things. And
Ooh,
it's yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Audience participation is the best way to get points across with people. It
Yeah.
really
And then
is.
they can't fall asleep during your presentation.
That is so true. That is so true. But also, just the fact of participating in something helps to set it in their mind as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah."
Yeah.
And
Hey,
and
I
then I
actually
always
learned
thought,
something here, right?
yeah. And then I always, say, "You all just cluck like chickens." No, I'm joking. But because, mob mentality, by the way, is,
Mhm.
an everyday example of communal hypnosis.
Yeah.
You know, the brain goes, "Well, if they're all doing it, I want to do it too." And that is a natural everyday state of hypnosis as well. So,
I spent 42 years in public affairs. And yeah, and so definitely understand that, especially when there is an issue that you're trying to get across to people, and there is, fear or a not understanding of what the issue is, and everybody kind of gets in this mindset. Yeah, it's really interesting to watch, and sometimes scary to watch the mob mentality and how that can really just expand. Uh,
yeah,
and you sit
it's
there and you wonder, like, how did so many people fall into this?
social hypnosis. Yeah,
Yeah, but the same thing happens with marketing, obviously, too, right?
yeah, advertising. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always, during a free screening, sing a little bit of the McDonald's jingle, just like hum it. And I'm a terrible singer, and they still figure it out. But it's through relaxation, repetition, and fixation. It's constantly, going into the subconscious, and that is how everyday hypnosis is built. So, you know, it, learning this hands down empowered me more to know when other hypnosis is happening, daily hypnosis. So, like, people do not realize that parents are like the first hypnotist we what a parent says to a child becomes part of their embedded strategies,
Yeah.
you know. And then teachers and doctors and nurses and any person who's in a position of authority is a natural everyday hypnotist. They just don't realize it.
I never looked at it that way. I always look at the fact that how we kind of, take all this stuff in, and then we believe some of those things that people have said, like, you're good for nothing, or, you're really good at whatever. And so we this becomes part of our psyche, right?
Mhm.
As we go through life, we believe things about ourselves, and 99% of that is what other people told us about ourselves.
Yep,
And
absolutely. And so
and
then
how do we overcome that?
yeah, well, and you just like what I usually tell people is I'm not actually hypnotizing you. I am de-hypnotizing you from the track that you are already on, right?
Ooh, love it.
They've already you so for let's just use the example of like overeating, okay? So a person has this stimulus and then
Sure,
they
hit
have a
me
stress
right at home.
response.
Hit me
Oh
right.
yeah. And then they, go to the fridge. It had nothing to do with the fridge or the contents of the fridge. It's not about the food, it's about the mood that caused them to want to do it in the first place. But they're in a pattern. Same with like having a cigarette or, anything else. They're already in a hypnotic track, and then we have to use hypnosis to create the new hypnotic track that they would like.
I love that. I love that. Because of my parents and grandparents, I'm part of the Clean Plate Club,
Mhm.
right? it
Yes. It's a big club.
it is, right? You finish that. There are children starving in Africa. You
Of
know,
course there
yeah.
are.
I
Yeah.
used to tell my grandmother, send them the peas. Okay. I don't put them in
Please.
a box, send them over there. They're starving. I'm not, I'm good. I don't need the peas. But yeah, it's a whole different mindset, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yes.
I love this. We're having a delightful conversation with Trisha Fuller, who is a hypnotist and a hypnosis trainer in Canada, right? Where in Canada are you?
I'm in Alberta, just outside of Edmonton.
Okay. And you
Yeah.
don't have a heavy Canadian accent. You're not saying like a boot and all that stuff.
I actually get that a lot, and I laugh because when I hear other people do that, I'm like, "That's weird." No, but just like places in the US, every place has their own, um,
Oh yeah, their own regional
dialect,
accents and
and I find that Alberta, it it's not as profound. We'll call it that.
I know what you mean. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and you wouldn't know that now.
Oh.
But some people, from other parts can figure out I've got that kind of northeastern US accent, kind of little hints. And being a Navy broadcast journalist, I had to kind of train that out. So I don't drink coffee anymore and go around the corner.
No, I totally understand. Yeah,
But when I hear people with who have that accent, I immediately sling back into it.
right. It becomes
Yeah.
automatic for
Is
sure.
it? And you talk about regionalisms. Like when I was in the Navy, we were overseas, and we were some shipmates and I were sitting in an outdoor cafe in a touristy area, and there were people from all over the world going by, and we were like listening to the languages they were speaking and trying to figure, or the accents, and trying to figure out where they were from. And here come this little group of college students, and they were chatting, and we're listening. We're going, where the heck are they from? And we couldn't for the life of us figure it out. We did, what a weird accent that is. And then we realized they were wearing a Myrtle Beach, South Carolina t-shirt, and they were just speaking Southern,
Yeah,
Southern US.
for sure. That's
I love
hilarious.
it.
But yeah,
With
sometimes
programs.
we
Go
don't
ahead.
even know. I don't know how to, speak in certain parts of my own country, so it's all good.
It's amazing what goes on in our own minds as we try to go through life. And it's so wonderful to have people like you that have figured a way to help people out of their kind of self-created traumas sometimes. Um, eh,
Yeah, thank you for saying it exactly like that. Self-created traumas.
you can
Because
use that. I won't even charge you a commission.
right? It's beautiful. So what's so true about that is that our mind is not a video camera, and it only is ever recording a fragment of the truth. So there's this like video that
Mhm.
I'll show like in sessions or in trainings, and it only takes like 20 seconds, but it literally shows a video of what you think is, a man robbing somebody else. And then from another angle, you see him just like running away. It looks like he stole something. And then in another angle, you see him actually pushing somebody out of the way to save them from a cascading, something that was falling. And in that moment, you begin to realize what the reality in your head is not necessarily the truth. And the only question becomes is it serving you? Is this something that you want to continue to hold on to? And essentially what happens is people come in with what they're remembering in their mind, and it's a fragment of the truth. And we call it like buckets of poop. They're holding their buckets of poop, and they're coming in and they're telling me how bad the poop
Yes.
smells. And I'm going, put the buckets down. They're going, no, it's my poop. And I'm going, it's okay, put them down. But the truth is, even the most horrific things, the question is, do you want to hold on to it longer, or would you like to find out ways to move forward? Right. And, you cannot create a healthy future if you're looking in the rearview mirror. So when you're driving down the highway, the windshield is bigger for a reason. The rearview mirror is very small, and you only look at it, to glean the learnings. There's learnings in everything that we've experienced. There's opportunities to take that feedback and how can I use this moving forward? And the only legitimate question that we gear people towards is what do I want? And what would it look like, sound like, and feel like if I had it? And that helps people propel them into the future. And that's like setting a destination. So like using, a maps device of some sort. If you do not know where you are going, you cannot move forward. You're just a blue dot swirling around on the screen trying to figure out where to go. So you have to set that destination. And the goal is what I do is helping them set that destination. And even if they change their mind halfway on the route, realize there is no reason to go back. So if you're driving from, where are you at, John, currently living? So if
Pennsylvania.
I'm going to Pennsylvania and I decided Pennsylvania is my destination, you know, there's no reason to go back, even if I get a flat tire. But that's how people look at their lives. They're like, I'm going to restart my life. That's like saying you have to go back to wearing diapers, or you have to go back to crawling. No, we have skills, we have tools. And if I decide to go to Florida instead, that's no big deal. But we have to set a destination, and we have to know that we're always rerouting, and that's okay. But we don't have to go back and start from scratch. We have tools, we have skills, and we get to move forward.
I love that. Thank you so much, Trisha. What a great way to get to kind of the wrap up point here. Uh, can you believe a half an hour has gone by
I
so
actually
quickly?
can't. But I go into a focused state when I talk about hypnosis, and time just kind of falls away. So
But this is what happens, right? We get into conversations with people that we enjoy, we're learning, and all of a sudden time has just gone by. I wish we had even more time, and maybe we'll have some future discussions. But meanwhile, people should pick up a copy of Cracking the Rich Code, Volume 16, and check out your chapter about Lindsay's story. Lindsay's story, a true story, a last resort. I'd love to. I can't wait to get my copy of 16. I'm way behind on these things. I'm keep trying to catch up, just so I get to, if nothing else, read the chapters that the guests that I've
right.
spoken to have written. But for folks who want to reach out and learn more about you, they can visit
Yes,
learnhypnosis.ca.
and I've set up a free gift for people. So if they
Lovely.
go through the submission form and just say where you saw us in the or me in the subject, and say free gift, I will send you a free gift. And I even have a small course that's been done online where you get the idea of hypnosis and NLP and mentorship and perceptioneering all in kind of one little package, so people can kind of like test it
Wow.
out to see what they think before they jump into something bigger. So we have options for, people who just want to dabble, because, if you're anything like me, you need to kind of experience it on your own a little bit first before you jump in and create the change that you really need.
I love it. Thank you. Well, I look forward to I'm gonna be submitting for that myself. So we'll look forward to some future
Sounds good.
conversation. And thank you again so much for joining us. Thanks for contributing to Cracking the Rich Code Volume 16. And we will see you down the road. Thanks
Thank
again
you,
for
John. I
being
have
here.
had a great conversation.
I love it. Thanks, Tricia. Take care.
You
Have a
too.
great day.